Okay, this is 8.1 and 8.4C guided practice, page number 4. We're going to go through 13, 14, and 15 here. Number 13, directions. Click on a box to choose each statement you want to select. You must select all correct statements. The expression below has a value of 7. Cube root of y plus x. We must see which one of these x and y values give us the value of 7. All right, so I'm going to go over to Desmos, and I'm going to type in, I actually want to evaluate this, so I'm not going to use x and y, I'm just going to use a and b. Okay, I'm going to use cube root. Now, we might not know where the cube root button is, so what we need to do is we need to go to our little keyboard where it says functions, and we have 3 little options here at the top. There is some good stuff that you could use in here if it would be beneficial to you. I'm going to click on miscellaneous. Down here on the right hand side is going to have a root button that will allow me to change that to a cube root. All right, I'm going to do cube root of a. I need to press the right arrow to get out of the cube root, and then plus b. Okay, I'm going to change them to sliders, which means I can change the number. And if you notice, I changed y to a, and I changed x to b. All right, so I'm going to type in each of these number sets, and whichever ones give me 7, those will be my answers. Okay, and notice here it says you must select all correct statements, so there will be more than one answer. Okay, so I'm going to look at the first one. It says x equals 4. I'm going to plug in a 4 for b, and it says y equals 27. So I'm going to plug in a 27 for a. All right, and it says that it's equal to 7. So this is actually an answer. I'm going to circle this one here as my answer right there. Okay, now we're going to try the next one. X equals 9 and y equals -6. So x equals 9, I'm going to plug in 9 for my b. And y equals -6, I'm going to plug in -6 for my a. And we get 7.18. That is not what we want. That's not 7. Okay, so that's not going to work. Try the next one. X equals 3. I'm going to plug in a 3 for my b. And y equals 12. I'm going to plug in a 12 for my a. I get 5.2. That is also not what we want. All right. I'm going to ask you to pause the video and try the last 2. See if we get 7 as our value. Okay, you should have tried the last 2. If you tried the last 2, you would see that x equals -3 and y equals 100 does not work. It does not give us the value of 7. But when we plug in 8 for x and -1 for y, that does work. That does give us the value of 7. Okay, for your Desmos check here on the right, if you just want to list a couple of the steps, you don't have to list all of them, but just give me one of the examples here. So put cube root of a plus b, and then say a equals whichever one you want to use, 12, and b equals 3, just to show that you typed this into Desmos and you plugged in the values that they asked for. That'll be good enough for me just to show me that you attempted it and that you did some checking on Desmos. All right. Number 14. Evaluate the following verbal expression when the value of g is equal to -3. Twice a number g less than 27 is decreased by 2. All right, they're asking us for 2 things here. We need to change this to an expression, and then we need to evaluate it for -3. Okay, so first step, twice a number g less than, this is a keyword, less than 27 is decreased by 2. Okay, so less than means we're going to switch it. So we are going to do 27, put the minus sign there for the less than, twice a number, so 2g is decreased by 2. So decreased, remember, is minus by 2. All right, So twice a number, that's 2g, less than, that's a minus, 27. Remember we had to switch them because it's less than, is decreased by 2, minus 2. All right, and now we need to evaluate for g equal to -3. So we're going to plug in a -3 here for g. We're going to use Desmos just like we had for the last one. We're going to do 27 minus 2g minus 2. We're going to add a slider to g. I'm going to change it to -3. And it says our answer is 31. All right, which is, yes, it is an answer choice. That is answer choice D. Okay, so there are two things that was required of us here for this question. We needed to remember how to take this these words and write it as an expression. And then we needed to remember that we take -3 and plug that into G so that we could evaluate it. Okay, on Desmos here, you can just write your steps that we did to show that you checked it on Desmos and got the right answer. And last one, number 15. Evaluate each of the following expressions and select all that are equivalent. Right, so remember we said evaluate is when you plug in a number and get an answer, and then equivalent means which ones are the same. Okay, so we're going to type in each of these 4 into Desmos and see which ones are equivalent. I'm going to start with the first one, 4x to the 4th. And remember, we can't use x and y if we're going to add a slider, so I'm just going to change it to a, 4a to the 4th. When I add that slider, it says we want it to be -2. Okay, so 4a to the 4th or 4x to the 4th, when you plug in a -2, you get 64. Okay, so I'm going to write 64 here. Okay, and I want to take a second to pause and just look at the importance of using Desmos and using the sliders. When we plug in -2, it's very important that we put parentheses around -2, so it should look like this. Okay, some of us forget to put these parentheses, and so it gives us the wrong answer. But when you use Desmos and use the sliders, you don't have to worry about getting the right answer or not getting the right answer. It will automatically do that for you. Okay, so once again, the sliders are very important because it helps us to not mess up the little things that are just easy to get the wrong answer. All right, so we got 64 for that one. Next one, 3x minus 5y when x equals 5 and y equals -4. I'm going to plug this in here, but remember we can't use x and y, so I'm just going to use a and b. We have 3a minus 5b. I'm going to add a slider to both a and b. A is going to be 5. And b is going to be -4. All right, and when we plug that in, we got 35. So let me just write 35 here. 35 is not the answer. Okay, I'm going to try the next one. Let's do this for red so that we can tell. 3x squared minus 8y. Again, we can't use x and y, so I'm going to use a and b. 3a squared minus 8y. Okay, and we're going to say x is 5. So I'm going to change 8. Oh, a is already 5. Let's see, it's not going to let us do it unless it's below. There we go. All right, so a is 5 and b is 2, and we get 59. Okay, so far none of them are equivalent. 64, 35, and 59 are not the same. All right, I'm going to pause the video and ask you to try the last one and see which two are equivalent. Okay, so you should have typed in the last one. If you typed in the last one, it should look like my screen here on the right. I typed in 8 square root of 4a, and I changed the slider to 16 because we need to plug in a 16 here, and we got 64. Okay, so the question said which ones are equivalent, and our correct answer should be this one and this one. All right, go ahead and put your Desmos check on there and move on to the next group.